Hey folks, this is Esa from Amorphis and Silver Lake by Esa Holopainen, and you are Interview Under Fire.
All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to a new episode of Interview Under Fire. This is your host, Sunny. This time, I'm joined by an immensely talented Finnish musician today, and Esa Holopainen. Quite the honor, man. Thank you so much for joining the IOF podcast series today. You know, this is an exciting time of the year for you personally, Esa, with the release of your latest studio album with a new project, Silver Lake by Esa Holopainen, which drops May 28th on Nuclear Blast. Now, first things first, Esa, I want to, commend you on all of the well-deserved recognition that you're getting so far with this, especially with that amazing single Storm that recently came out with Norben's Hakan Hemlin. So much to discover about this majestic record. But before we get to all that and beyond, I'm going to ask a very important question to start things off. It's a simple one. I know we talked about it before the interview, like all my other artists. How are you, man? How is life in Helsinki? I think it's an important one to ask, considering what's been happening in our lives in the last year.
Absolutely. Life is rather good here. The vaccine starts to do it, I think. So we are getting down with the corona numbers. It's okay. Spring is coming. We got rid of the ugly weather, which is the winter time here. So it's pretty good. We're working with a new Amorphis album at the moment. So pretty busy with that. So, but thanks for asking.
No, that's now you got me excited. I know I said I wasn't gonna get the fan aspect out of me, but now you got me excited for a new Amorphis. I mean, it's really important to stay busy, especially during this time. It's easier said than done. Obviously, here in Dallas, it's we're kind of in the same stages that you guys are. We're getting the vaccines out. I mean, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but obviously you don't want to rush anything. But I do want to wind the clock back here, Esa, to maybe spring of 2020, because for the fans and listeners who don't know, we are all familiar with your flawless work with the legendary Amorphis over the years. If you could just briefly talk about that moment in your life that led to the forming of Silver Lake, when, producer Nino Laurenne asked you that $1 million question about a solo album. Does it feel like everything just went by in a blink since then?
Yeah, I think I needed that. I needed that one little kick to start the project and start to work with my really personal own material. And it's always fun to work with Nino. He's my good friend and he's a great producer and he's been recording a couple of Amorphis albums and I always enjoyed recording with him. So it's been more or less like these bar discussions with him in the past that would be nice to work together, do something together. And I think I mentioned also that if I ever do a solo album, I would really like you to record it. And he remembered that, and he looked like immediately when all the tour plans and shows got cancelled last year, he picked up his phone and called me and asked if I would be interested to start to work with my own album, and that's pretty much how it started. I had a couple of songs on my computer that I played to him, which was very out from the formal how I usually work with, and I wasn't really sure at that moment where I'm going to head with this album. He liked the songs. He said, "You need a singer for them. We're not going to do instrumental album if the songs are like this." And I started to figure out whom I could, think of doing these songs. The first three songs, they were Sentiment, Ray of Light, Promising Sun, and all the songs included some sort of elements that reminded me from Einar, Jonas, and Björn. And I was more than happy when I sent the songs for them and they liked them and were willing to work with them. So from that moment, that also gave me self-confidence to start to write more stuff and think about more guest vocalists who I know and who I really respect and who I would like to have with me.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about those guest vocalists a little bit further down. But You talking about Silver Lake, how it kind of it's been what, 1 year since technically it formed, but you, Esa, you've been at this for over 3 decades, maybe even longer than that, whether it's with Amorphis or Chaos Breed or Violent Solution. So I wanted to ask, how was the live music experience for you personally? Because you've done some extensive touring throughout your career. I'm obviously talking about the Trees last time you were in Dallas, but you've also played, in Hellfest and Tuska Open Air, Summer Breeze, Vakken. That list can go on. And now we've all just kind of been forced to take an unexpected step back. Does it make you have a growing appreciation of the touring life?
Yes, absolutely. And I told someone that I'm not going to complain anymore about traveling or staying at the airports or wherever when we get rid of this and go back to normal life, if we ever go. But yeah, I'm not going to yeah, absolutely. But I'm not going to complain anymore. And you really start to miss something when you lose it and when you can't practice your profession. It's actually pretty horrible. And we've got used to tour and play shows a lot, like 200 shows almost a year. Last year we canceled 100 shows. Even we were just going to do some little things, some anniversary shows there and there, but that also had like the snowball effect, and our calendar was full with shows, and yeah, we had to cancel around 100 shows, and it sucks, of course, and it hits pretty hard when you just realize that you're going to sit home and basically doing nothing. It's pretty bad.
Yeah,
yeah, and I started to think, when I someday going to retire, is it going to be this boring? There's nothing to do.
If anything, it's preparing you for that time. I mean, that's always one way to look at it, And I wanted to also get your take on this, because there's no wrong answer to this question I'm about to ask right now, because a very common subject on Interview Under Fire, and you've seen this, a lot of bands have been doing it, is live streaming. And you kind of set this up for me perfectly. Bands, what they're doing on stage and taking it to the screen. For example, one of the first podcast sessions we had was with Nilo from Insomnium, and he came on the show I think about less than a year ago, and he talked about his experience on. I'm sure you've seen this. The Insomnium showed they sold virtual tickets to the fans, and they pre-recorded a set, and then they streamed it, but a lot of bands have been doing it. August Burns Red did it, Lamb of God did it, that list goes on. But the amount of touring that you've done throughout your career, like you just talked about, the venues you played at, the fans you've met, the musicians you've collaborated with, do you think that the rise of the quarantine induced live streaming that we're seeing right now from all these artists, is that going to affect the touring musician business going forward through your perspective? Or has it already been affected? Do you still see bands doing something like this even after all this is over?
I don't know. I guess it depends how you do it. But if you just try to replace a stream with live show, that's never going to happen. I think you should have some sort of a red line. What are you going to offer, and what's the stream is going to be like. I think people are more interested about artists' personal lives or whatever, rather than they are just at rehearsing place playing the show. We did couple stream shows last year, last June, and it was all right. It was a very good production, but still it felt like filming a music video, because there is no audience. So I don't think that any stream can really replace the real live experience, because it's so much chemistry between the audience and between the band, and the energy level what's at the venue, packed venue when there's a lot of people. It's no way that any live stream can replace that. But I think it's considering the pandemic, when it's impossible to arrange real live shows, I think it's okay for the fans and bands as well, that fans can get probably a little income from there, and the fans and the audience can see at least some sort of live music. But especially if you record something and then you stream it later, it's not even live stream anymore.
Yeah.
So
No. You pointed out perfectly, and there's so many different perspectives to take in when it comes to doing something like this. Obviously, there's that uncertainty going forward. I've had bands who said, mental health is something that comes into play that some people can't handle. I have friends who won't even go to shows because of there's that feeling of that anxiety being in a large crowd, and there's that convenience of watching a live stream, and I can mosh in my own room if I want to for as long as I want, right? There's also that, how long can you do it for? You do the live streaming, how much more creative can you get? But you put the answer perfectly. There's no right or wrong answer to what you just said, but yeah, you put it perfectly. Now, I know we shifted gears here talking about your touring experience. Let's get back to Silver Lake, because comes out May 28th on Nuclear Blast. Now, you talked about wanting to do your own record for years, for a while. You talked about that briefly. And if I may, again, this is the fan aspect. It was well worth the anticipation. It was just a perfect blend of the heaviness and the progressive elements, dare I say, mixed with a hint of pop in there. It reminded me of a band like Dire Straits. I know my mom's a huge fan of Dire Straits when I first got exposed to it. But from songs like Sentiment to Storm, to In Her Solitude, to Fading Moon, to Apprentice, I was ready for the next record right when it was finished. So even if that's like down the road, and your ability to create these ethereal atmospheres and mind-blowing riffs with Amorphis was obviously there, but with Silver Lake, I felt like it really allowed you to tap into your musicality even further. Do you feel the same way?
well, I see that I had more opportunities to bring out the elements that I wouldn't do with Amorphis necessarily. There was a lot of like song structures, the ideas that I wouldn't dare to play the guys or Amorphis producer, because it would be a no immediately. But it's but that's why I wanted to do this project, and there is it tells so much about me and my personal musical influences. It's the whole album is pretty much a good map into my musical world, and what inspires me and what kind of music inspires me. And on the other hand, I think it would be really weird to do a project and write songs in the vein of Amorphis like that. I think that would have been a weird idea. So I definitely wanted to do something different and something that I feel good about, and something that is absolutely different from my normal comfortable zone.
Yeah, exactly. And then, as far as the production, you talked about Nino for a second, and he's a renowned music producer and mixer who worked on this over at Sonic Pump in Helsinki. At the same time, it was mastered by Svante Forsback. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. And he's known for his work with Rammstein and Volbeat and Erasmus. Talk about them for a second. I know you briefly talk about Nino, but them together, I'm sure there was a sense of comfortability in the studio for you, Esa, knowing that they were working on Silver Lake with you.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sort of a person that always needs somebody to from whom I can ask questions and opinions. And for me, producer Nino was very, very important person during this process, and there was a lot of things that I learned during the session, like I had to write lyrics and do vocal arrangements, vocal guidelines, things that I normally don't do. And so it was a huge learning lesson for me as well. And I'm super happy that Nino shared his time as well making this album. Svante is a great guy. He's a mastering engineer, and as you mentioned, he's got a pretty nice clients from Rammstein to Volbeat and you name it. And he's a super guy. He's got a mastering studio here near Helsinki, and Nino usually uses him on every project he does, and he's amazing guy.
Yeah, definitely.
He did the magical final touch.
Yeah, and that magical final touch was definitely heard throughout Silver Lake. And I'm gonna throw a few more names at you. I know we talked about a couple. You knew this was coming. Tomi Joutsen, Håkan Hemlin, Anneke van Giersbergen. And I had the chance to interview Anneke a couple months ago on her solo record. Bjorn Strid, Einar Solberg. Jonas Renske. You collaborated with every single one of these talented vocalists. So what was that experience like, bringing in outside professional artists in their respective music fields into your world of Silver Lake? Did it make the entire process that much easier to get through?
Well, yes, but it's I know a lot of people. I met a lot of people during these last 30 years that I've been active, and sometimes you meet people and vocalists that make you, or musicians that makes just um, impact to you, in some sort of way. And all these vocalists are people that I highly respect, admire, and truly like. And that was sort of my mission, that I write music for these great vocalists, and I try to pick up all the little nuances that I like about these vocalists, and how I would like them to be heard. And I think the result was very good, and I'm sure that all the vocalists are happy with the songs they were working with. I definitely didn't want to just randomly send songs for them and can you please do this or this or this or this.
Just randomly.
I really,
what is this?
Yeah,
it's an email from Esa.
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted them to be as happy as I am working with the songs, and the result was great. It's one thing I was a little scared was that am I going to just have a mixture between different type of songs with different singers? But musically, there's a great connection between everything and everyone on this record.
Yeah, it really showed the diversity and within your catalog, and just for Silver Lake alone, I really think it really showed a different side of you that I never thought I needed, and it was great. Now, you're talking about between writing and structuring the songs and the production process, like you talked about, the lyricism surrounding Silver Lake touches on, I think you briefly mentioned this, again, mental health issues and inspiration from nature as well. I would wonder if there was a theme to this, and if so, to what level do you like to have a theme for your music, Esa, and how important are themes to you?
It depends. I knew already that lyrical theme is not going to be it's not going to be like a theme album, because there are many lyricists on this album. The topics deal with different things, so I didn't even want to print out the lyrics for the album. Actually, there is lyrics for one song, and this is the Finnish song Alkusointu. The album is going to have that in Finnish and the written translation.
Oh, that's great.
Other than that, I thought that lyrics on this album should be more universal, and I like the idea that the music sort of leads the whole thing. And when you listen to the album and you listen to the songs, what the vocalists are singing, how the lyrics are, you can make up your own mind what it is, because the lyrics, as I say, they are so universal. It's not any fairy tales from dwarves or whatsoever. But yeah.
Do you see Silver Lake as a snapshot of where you are in a certain time in your life looking back?
You mean another album, or?
You could compare it even to Amorphis, just any album you've done. Like when you look back on a specific album you put out in your career, you could say something like, for example, if you put an album out in 2020, you could say, oh, that was a pandemic album. It reminded me of that time in my life, what I was going through in my life. Do you have that feeling with Silver Lake? It doesn't have to be a pandemic album, but you get what I'm saying, during a certain time.
Yeah, I know. It sounds horrible if you say it's a pandemic album.
It's I've had
like
artists
a plague
who say
or something.
It's easy to fall into that trap mentally. That's why I'm.
But I know.
Yeah.
But that's the truth. It is a pandemic album in that way. It's an album when I had the most time in my life of really focusing, doing something else, and I made the album without no rush. I felt pretty relaxed, and but if I look back after 5, 10 years, 20 years time, I definitely will remember Silver Lake album as a pandemic album, because I made it during the times when the all touring and everything was canceled. You were not allowed to practice your profession. So yeah.
Yeah. What did I say earlier? It's a diamond in the rough. And that's exactly what we got here. You know, from the different experiences and perspectives in your timeline that you've taken in, which you've discussed about so far, whether it's playing the music you love for over 3 decades, spending majority of that sharing the stage with their bandmates in Amorphis, and of course the worldwide touring cycles you've completed and the dedicated and growing fan base you have had all this time. You know, what is the most rewarding part for someone like you, Esa, who is now at this point in their career, at the same time has been involved with so many other different aforementioned talented bands, artists, individuals throughout that timeline? You've experienced so much already in your career. Do you ever stop to take a look back at how far you've come?
Sometimes, yeah, especially when you realize that you're going to celebrate like 30 years with the band, and it is a long time. It's super long time. We did our first tours 93, 94, and that is a long time ago, and the world was totally different back in the days. I remember we did our first US tours. We were visiting World Trade Center and everything like this.
Man.
And it you know, when you look back now, it feels like you were living in a different world, a different life, so to speak. The world today is very different, but I still, you know, I enjoy every moment, and it's great fun to go and play with your bandmates, and they are like another family, and it's always a great thing to go out and play with the guys and enjoy life. But I think what I am proud of is that you know, after 30 years we still have Amorphis together, and it's super strong band, and we come up with strong albums, and it's really a great feeling, and it really motivates to go even further from here, and none of us feel like, you know, we are old farts and we're going to retire soon.
I had a feeling you were going to go there. It's like, don't even worry about that. You still have a new album coming up this year. That's always an example to look at.
Yeah. Look at the Saxon, the band. I think they are
Yeah. I definitely know about them. I mean, my upbringing deals with a lot of the bands that I mentioned earlier and what you just said. I wonder, do you ever like go to YouTube and just Google, just YouTube search Amorphis 1991 and just, I don't know, do you ever watch your own set back in the past? I always wonder about that.
You know, sometimes, you know, someone from the band always sends a link or something. Hey, dude, go check this out. And there is some old VHS recording from from some shithole. YouTube, if anything, it's a time machine, especially for bands like you. You can always revisit that time. It is, but it's fun still. You know, you get lost in YouTube when you start to search things.
Yeah, and Esa, we're running out of time here, but I wish we had more time. Obviously, we'll do this again when you guys come back to Dallas. Visit Trees again. Trees is one of the venues that's actually still upright and going, so that's always good news.
Okay, but that's good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, before we finish things off here, do you have any, I don't know, last words, any shout outs, anything you'd like to plug in as far as Silver Lake or perhaps even Amorphis?
Yeah, thank you for the interview. First of all, it was super nice talk with you, and at the moment we are in the middle of recording next Amorphis album, and that should be out early next year. And yeah,
gosh,
really excited.
All right, next time we got to bring you and Tomi back together, and that'll round it out perfectly. And everyone who's listening, this is Esa Holopainen, the legendary Esa Holopainen, might I add. Silver Lake comes out May 28th on Nuclear Blast Records. If you can, purchase the record, because the artist can't do it without your help. This is an easier said than done process, but it really means a lot. Please. Really, hey, I still buy records that's in the corner of my room. So, yeah, and I've been doing it for the last year. And don't forget, you can listen to this podcast on every major podcast stream out there. This will be up on YouTube as well. Check us out on interviewunderfire.com. Esa, stay safe out there in Finland, man. And I will see you next time, hopefully soon here in Dallas. All right.
Absolutely. Take care.
Take care, my
friends.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Interview Under Fire podcast. If you guys liked what you heard, please subscribe and share our channel. And please leave a 5-star review, as that helps us tremendously. If you'd like to check out more, visit www.interviewunderfire.com or our social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And finally, we want to thank you all for the support you've been giving us. Keep it burning.